Hello, everyone. Apologies for the late start. I didn't realize there was people on. So we'll get started. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Frankie LaFrance, and I am Ganyakahaga Mohawk. I grew up in my territory, which is Akwesasne, but I currently reside in Ottawa. And I work as an Indigenous grad coach for OCDSB. And I will be moderating the event for today. So I'll be here for technical support and to manage any questions or comments that come in from attendees. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I would like to preface the session by reminding attendees that any inappropriate comments or questions that come up in the Q&A will result in removal from the session. So please remain respectful and mindful with your comments. Questions are encouraged and can be put in the Q&A, and we'll address them after the presenter is done speaking. So with that, I'll introduce our presenter. Nitanis is a Plains Cree from Muskeg Lake in Treaty 6 territory. She's Mohawk from Tyendinaga, English and Irish mix. She's in her first year at Queen's University, working towards a major in Indigenous knowledges and perspectives. Nitanis attended high school here in Ottawa and was previously the head of her school's Indigenous Student Association. So please welcome Nitanis. If there's anything you want to add, Nitanis, that I missed, feel free. And if not, we can jump right into the Q&A.
No, I think that's good. I'm ready to start too. Thank you.
Okay. So the first question for you, what was your pathway planning process like? And how did you decide which program you wanted to take?
Yeah, so I've always known that I wanted to go to university. I was lucky enough to have family who went to university, and they really showed me that pathway opens up a lot of doors for our people. Education, I believe, is really important, and that's because they showed me that. It was more the question of where did I want to go to university? I always knew as well that I wanted to do Indigenous Studies. So the program that I'm in, Indigenous Knowledges and Perspectives, used to be Indigenous Studies, but that's the new title for it here at Queen's. I just wanted to find a university that had a good program where I could feel like I belonged and could access courses that interested me, like language courses. Here at Queen's, we have a few language courses. They change up every year, but they're typically Mohawk language and Anishinaabemowin. So that really attracted me to Queen's. That was one of the huge deciding factors. Another thing that I took into consideration was things like how close I would be to home. So like you said, I grew up in Ottawa. A lot of my family's there, but a lot of my family's also in Tyendinaga on the reserve there. So I also selected Queen's due to the proximity to family, but also being able to kind of get away and spread my wings, because that's definitely something that I wanted to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think as Indigenous students, looking for opportunities that are still close and accessible to our territories is one thing that other non-Indigenous students might not consider because of that connection. So that's really good. What were some of the costs associated with your pathway, and did you come across any financial surprises?
Of course, there's things like tuition, and if you're living in residence, the cost of that, depending on the university, that will also call for a meal plan, which can get quite expensive. Things like those are the main things that usually everyone knows about, but you also have to think about things like cost of gas. If you have a car here and you want to go travel and see your family, visit home, a lot of people go home over reading week or over the weekends to see family if it's like a possibility for them. So you have to take into consideration the cost of travel for that. School supplies, things are a bit different in university, especially if you're in something like a STEM program. You oftentimes need more expensive supplies, and that can be a hindrance for a lot of people. You also need a good computer. So I know a lot of people use school computers in high school, but we don't necessarily have like the same access to that in university. So paying for your own computer. Uh, a surprise was like I needed a good pair of walking shoes. I think that's a little funny, but you walk everywhere in university. So you need a good pair of running shoes. Also, if you're in a dorm or if you're in housing, you need to like figure out the cost of furnishing that. You don't realize like how much like things cost until you actually move out and you have to figure that out on your own. Also, kind of a funny tidbit is cold medicine. In university, you will get something called frosh flu. It's just kind of like a slang term or a joke term, but you got to plan for like things. You got to plan, okay, I'm gonna have to spend money on getting cold medicines and all this stuff. So there's lots of surprises. I don't think we all realize the type of stuff that we use day to day, that are like our parents are our guardian supply for us that we have to start getting ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. So what strategies have you used to balance all of your responsibilities? Being in university day to day looks a lot different than being in high school. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's definitely super different. We don't have that like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. kind of schedule of periods and teachers setting up how we like progress in assignments. You really have to like set for yourself a consistent schedule and say like today I'm going to work on this for this many hours and I'm going to work on this tomorrow and I'm going to like you have to learn how to keep track of things on your own. A good strategy that I use is keeping a planner, keeping a calendar, having like stuff written down, reading through my syllabus for each course and going through. So that's where like the professor lists all of the course assignments with like their weighting and their due dates. So I always go through that, put that in my calendar. um, but essentially, like I set my day up how it was in high school. So around my classes, like lectures and such, I set aside, like I said, time. But I also find it really important to block off time for social, recreational, and like relaxing activities because in university, especially, we really need that like study life balance. And I think that's something that a lot of first year students we struggle with. um, but yeah, definitely like you have to learn how to keep yourself accountable by like finding what works for you. So just because something might work for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone listening, but it really is a trial and error, and it's about like knowing yourself, knowing how your brain works, and teaching yourself discipline. That's definitely the biggest thing, biggest difference that I've found.
Mhm. I think it's important that in the beginning, students give themselves a little bit of grace in trying to adjust to such a big change. Like you said, something might work really well for you and not so well for others. And it takes time to figure out what works for each person.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what challenges have you faced so far and how have you overcome them?
I think a big thing, especially for Indigenous students, of course, we're not the only ones to experience it, but I think we experience it to like a greater degree than most other students, is loneliness. I think a lot of the times on university campuses, we are a minority, and oftentimes we feel really invisible when you're the only Indigenous person in a class, or, like the only Indigenous person that you know at the entire university. You feel really lonely, and that can really undermine your confidence and, your productivity and all that stuff. So something that I recommend to everyone I talk to is always like find your community on your campus. A lot of universities have Indigenous people's houses or like centers for students and staff. So I come here. That's actually where I'm taking the call a lot, and I can access supports here, and I can also just, chat, socialize, and be my authentic self and just like battle that loneliness. So that's the biggest thing I think for Indigenous students. Find community, and if you can't find the community, make the community. Reach out to people, like socialize, do what you can. Don't stay in your room, go out, see the campus, talk to people. You gotta like put yourself out there to battle that loneliness.
Absolutely. That can be pretty scary depending on the kind of person you are. If you're someone who's more introverted, um, taking that initiative, like you said, to make community um, can be challenging, but it's definitely needed. I think, in addition to loneliness, which absolutely um, is something that we experience, on the opposite end of that coin can also be if you are the only Indigenous student in a class or in a program, often feeling like you become kind of the spokesperson for all Indigenous people, especially
Mhm.
if there's specific topics that relate to Indigenous issues. Um, Sometimes there's um, an expectation that you know everything, or you become tokenized. Um, and even in that regard, again, I think the answer is looking for community to find that support. Because if you experience that, chances are there's other students that are experiencing that too.
Mhm.
So I think it's really
Exactly.
awesome that you say make community. Okay, next question. Um, what advice? Oh, I missed a question. How did you deal with the increased independence after high school?
Oh, this one's a good one. I know a lot of people who kind of go like separate ways. Some people, the independence, they like go a little crazy and wild and don't really go to their classes, and then other people kind of get too much into the academics and don't take care of themselves. So I think with the increased independence, you really have to like understand what it means to have a study life balance, which is, like I said, like that goes into keeping my structured schedule where I structure like my academics, but I also structure like time where I can just do what I want to do, you know? With the independence too, you have to learn how to take care of your body, mind, and spirit. I think when we're not under the care of like our parents or guardians, some of us might not be treating ourselves as well as we should. So definitely I try to like ensure that I'm eating balanced meals at the dining hall, that I'm getting good exercise, good sleep, that I'm, taking care of my spirit, what that like whatever that means to me, and I hope people do similar things, whatever that means to them. Also, since tying back to the loneliness, you often like you feel like you're the only one experiencing this, but you're actually experiencing it alongside tons and tons of other people a bunch of other first years at your university. So my advice would be go and like make connections with people. Like tell other people like you can rely on me and I'm here to support you and hope, that they support you back. Um, and ask people to hang out, get yourself out there. Um, just like you have to learn how to be your own caregiver and how to like respect your person as well.
What is one thing you wish you would have known in high school about your pathway?
I really want to get across to other Indigenous students that just because we are a minority in post-secondary education and university, that shouldn't be something to stop you. Don't let that hold you back. I think a lot of the times I doubted myself and I said like will I really belong? Will I really find success there? Am I going to be welcomed? And if I went into everything with that attitude, I don't think I would get anything done. I don't think I would have experienced nearly as many of the opportunities that I have and been able to positively influence my community. So honestly, it's like the cliche, like believe in yourself, like find your community, don't let others like hold you back, don't let um, negative people hold you back, become like whatever you want to become, don't let anything stop you.
What are the differences between high school and where you are now?
Of course, there's that huge like increase in independence. There's also a lot of self-guided learning. So in high school, we're very used to like we have 4 periods of class, and the teacher sets up lesson plans and tells us, okay, today we're going to work on this, and we're going to work on this for 5 days, and then we'll be ready, and it'll be due on this day, and you got to follow through with that. But in university, the profs say, okay, this is going to be due at the end of the month, and then they just teach. So the lectures that we have, it's just teaching. There's not time in class to actually like write your essays, So you're really guiding yourself through your courses. Also, I think a positive thing to focus on and a major difference is like your ability to focus your education on your interests. So me, I have an entire, like every single day is just focused on things that I'm interested in. I do Mohawk language. I have a gender studies course that's really interesting. I have my Indigenous knowledges and perspectives course. I have a history course that focuses on Indigenous history. I take a class about mental health. So I get to like customize my learning and really make sure that I'm engaged in what is being taught. And then I can really like take what I want out of my education and not like have to focus on some courses that I might not be as interested in. I think that's a huge difference, but I think it's a really good difference in some ways.
What are myths that you would like to clear up about your pathway choice? So you are working towards a major in Indigenous studies?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of look at the general like arts degrees as not being as important as STEM degrees. And I would really like to point out that they are equally as important. And I think in some ways, more important. Because for me, with my degree in Indigenous Studies, I'm hoping to go into education. I'm hoping to go into my community and help my community. I think it's also a very attractive degree for other people who might be going into things like law school. Also, like social services, there's so many things that you can do with an arts degree. There's so many things you can do with a degree in Indigenous Studies. And I just hope that people kind of think about that more than like just looking at it as not quite as useful as, say, a degree in business administration or engineering and such.
Absolutely. I think Indigenous Studies is an extremely valuable major to have as part of your program, especially now in the political climate that we're in.
Mhm.
Kind of is all encompassing depending on, whichever career pathway you decide, because Indigenous people are everywhere.
Mhm.
And we're becoming a lot more prevalent in just even our knowledge systems, and we're we're involved in more. We're in all different kinds of fields, so that's really good. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Any what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you could give for Indigenous students who are in high school and are thinking about going to university?
I would say definitely visit universities if that's something that's possible for you. Like, get all the information you can on the universities that you would like to go to or that you're looking at. Um, Definitely like attend open houses, information sessions, and ask about Indigenous services on campus. Because when I came for the open house at Queen's, they said, look, I have all these things printed out. I have all this information here. We have an Indigenous recruiter, and we have this huge center where you can access all these services. But I went to another university and they said, oh, we don't know if we even have something like that. So I was like, okay, well, at Queen's, I'm a priority, but at other universities, especially the one in that example, I was an afterthought. So definitely do your research into what kind of community they have for Indigenous students on campus, what kind of services they have for you. Um, Try and visit that, whatever it may be, and get an idea because you don't want to not feel supported on your campus. You want to make sure that there's a space for you. So I'll definitely always um, mention Four Directions Indigenous Student Center here at Queen's. If anyone is not sure about a university, I would say look into Queen's. It has amazing programs for all kinds of fields, and it has programs unique for Indigenous students to feel supported, to feel empowered, and to really thrive here on campus. So check it out if you're interested. And if you're not sure, still check it out.
Awesome. That's a great piece of advice. And giving Queens a shout out. I know they do have really great programs. So thank you for that. So that's it for the questions we have. I'll open it up to questions or comments from participants. If you have anything you'd like to add or a question, you can put them in the Q&A box now. Don't be shy. No questions? Okay, that's okay. I guess I'll wrap up early. So I will say thank you to everyone that attended this session. And thank you to Natanis for joining us and imparting her wisdom for all of us. So with that, this session is ended. And I hope everyone enjoyed and got something out of it. And take care.
Thank you so much. I'm happy everyone listened, and I hope someone got something from it.
I think so. A lot of great information. Thank you.
Thank you.